Meeting. Up first, we have Chris Nardone from Columbia Workforce for an update. Thank you, Chris, for coming in.
No, thank you for having me. All right. Thank you for having me, everybody. I've been here a couple times, so I'm just going to do a really quick overview of what we do, and then we'll kind of head into some updates. So we work with businesses and working families, typically low-income families, to try to train people and upskill people so that they can fill the in-demand occupations in our communities. We provide services to businesses such as education and training and job postings and things like that. But most of our work is with working families and working people in the counties. We've seen, and again, this is, I think, the third or fourth time I've been here, so you'll kind of see the theme continuing of the trends that we see. Job seekers, the number of job seekers we're seeing continues to be low, kind of reflecting the lowish unemployment rate and the intense competition for businesses for the labor market that we have available. As most of the time when people come in, they're only on the job market for maybe a day or two before they're scooped up by one of the businesses that's really out there kind of working for those employees. There's a high demand of jobs for a limited number of job seekers, and it's really continued this kind of sustained upward pressure. It feels like we might have kind of capped out on the wage pressure. We got, throughout the pandemic, wages kind of went up and up and up, but it seems like we've kind of leveled out with wages just because I think businesses noticed that it wasn't a super effective tool in helping their recruitment increase wages. There was just too many, you could only go up so high. But what it did do is hurt a lot of our public sector business or public sector employers, especially people that are funded by, say, Medicaid, that can't just kind of increase their wages as the private sector goes up. So we've had some of our human services organizations have a 40% vacancy rate in their organization, and they've been especially hard hit. So as we kind of start working with businesses on how to adapt to the new environment, the new labor market, part of that discussion is how do you operate a 24-hour care facility at a 40% vacancy rate over the long term, because that's the reality. It appears to be the reality of the long-term situation. Now, there was some hope that we would have people returning in droves from the labor force, into the labor force post-pandemic. That just has not materialized. And there is some portion of the population out there that is disengaged and should be in the labor force, but it's not entirely clear that that is a number sufficient to meet the needs of the market and businesses in our communities. So that's the general trend we've seen in job seekers. There are simply not enough of them. And the other thing we do a lot of is offer training to people. This is where we've seen a lot of growth, people coming in that want to upskill out of those low wage entry level positions into those middle skill. We get a lot of LPNs, CDL drivers, welders, kind of skilled trades people that really are tired of hospitality. They're tired of retail and they want to move into more skilled positions. We've trained about 15 LPNs over the course of this calendar year so far, and almost the same number of CDL drivers in Columbia County. We have a class going now in partnership with the college that'll train another 12 more CDLB drivers. So we've been able really to get people into those really in-demand positions, but at the cost of pulling them out of that low-wage labor pool. So the real pinch that employers are feeling, many of them, is at the bottom. We need people to wash the dishes. We need people to make the beds at our hospitality facilities. We need people to work the back of the house at the kitchen, wait staff. So many of the people that we're training, it's coming at the cost of that low wage labor pool that we really need. So businesses are kind of cannibalizing each other's employees. And then you have organizations like ours that are seeking to fill the need and upskill people that are also cannibalizing the low wage labor pool, which is exacerbating a problem as we solve another problem. So,
Chris, quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find that when you have trained somebody for a higher level job, that they tend to stay in the county, or do they leave the county for somewhere else?
I think it depends a lot on where the training is. So CDL, often they'll stay in the area because we're able to train them a little closer to the area. LPNs, the closest training facility for a licensed practical nurse is at Capital Region BOCES in Albany. So they're getting recruited by the Albany Medical Center system, St. Peter's Hospital, before they've ever graduated. So they're in county for the most part. They're living in county, but a lot of the LPNs are working in Rensselaer and Albany counties. Yes.
So that percentage of the workforce that hasn't re-engaged since the pandemic, do we have any sense of how large that is and when and how to reach it and to bring it back?
So the short answer is no. I don't think we really know how large it is. But there are ways that we can try to engage at least some portion of it. So what we've done is engage especially people with disabilities and trying to bring them in the workforce and work with businesses to educate about the benefits of hiring people with disabilities. We also have been reaching out to English language learners and non-native English speakers and immigrant populations to try to, and again, educating businesses and the business community to engage that population. The real mystery, I think, is the number of people who, when kids were out of school, stayed home to manage that and never returned. So the biggest market I think that's missing that hasn't come back is women who were in the home primarily taking care of kids and family members during the pandemic. But there are no clear numbers. Although even if we took right now at 3.6 or 3.8% unemployment, we have about 800 people, 800 bodies in Columbia County receiving unemployment. So I think even if that number is twice as many, we still don't have enough people to fill all of the vacant positions in the county. So beyond the problem of people not re-engaging with the workforce is the problem of our workforce kind of evaporating over the past few years and being displaced in a lot of ways as the cost of living increases. And a lot of the properties had been changed hands, and a lot of people who were renting were displaced from their rental properties. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Just wondering what the reimagined looks like then. If we think that that's an evaporating population, how can we encompass like remote work or find different ways for businesses to tap into that population?
And I think that's exactly it. We have to really leverage the technology that we embraced during the pandemic to try to compete outside of the area with the labor forces that exist in either surrounding areas, but we're not even limited necessarily to our region at that point. The problem with that is we are also in competition with the rest of the world. So never have we really been in competition with a Goldman Sachs or a JP Morgan Chase or a Sotheby's, right? But at this point, our brains, our intelligent young people are able to work remotely outside of the county in Dubai or in Thailand without ever leaving Columbia County. So as much as we hope to engage those populations and build a future workforce that kind of encompasses a broader area, we have to be super careful not to lose the talent that we have here to people outside our area also.
One more question is just, do we have a campaign around the switch of our hospital to bring LPNs back since they're in partnership with Albany Med now?
That I can't really speak to, but I can definitely ask some questions. The positive part of that is if a lot of our LPNs are going to Albany Med, hopefully we can kind of bring them back into the fold. And Columbia Memorial Hospital, the recent changes they've made to their pay structure has put them in the top brackets as far as RNs go anyway, as far as pay. So they are super competitive, but I don't think people know that necessarily. So yeah, that's a great point.
Just related to the LPNs, as you mentioned that the closest training facility was BOCES in Albany.
Mhm.
Is there any chance we can get the Hudson BOCES to sign up to train LPNs?
Hudson BOCES had an LPN program for a long time, but the cost of operation, I think, was prohibitive for them. I've been talking with Columbia Green to see if they'd be willing to, and pursuing some grant opportunities in partnership with their non-credit program to see if we could potentially develop an LPN program there. I think if we had people training here and living here and working here, we wouldn't have the opportunity for them to kind of be scooped up as they're at these training facilities in other areas. So I think LPNs and healthcare positions specifically, we really need a comprehensive training hub in our county for those.
I wonder, is ARPA money something we can use for that? Anybody know?
We wouldn't see why not. I mean, that's kind of, depends on how it's structured, I guess,
Help
but
there?
depends on how
Job
it's
formation
structured.
is allowable.
Right?
Job formation is allowable. You can link it to.
Yeah.
Retraining.
That may be a better question for the college, for President Drummer, because they would have to develop the program.
But Columbia Green has, they have some kind of restriction on the number of slots they can do and whether they could use,
45.
whether they could use this as.
Because they need a hospital to work with or something. It's-
So
Yeah.
they only have slots available for the people who are under a student program.
Well,
I don't know if they have
that's for the
enough
RN program. I wonder if it's also true for the
like
LPN.
LPNs.
Yeah, I think there's some disagreement maybe about, from our perspective, we as the workforce office don't think that there's necessarily a conflict because LPNs primarily are doing their clinical rotations in nursing homes, whereas RNs are primarily doing their clinical rotations in hospitals. So we've, in our discussions, and again, I've worked primarily with the non-credit office. So there may be some other credit academic affairs side things that I'm not aware of. But I think what it really boils down to is having the funding initially to hire the staff and to do the planning and to hire an instructor and all of those kind of things that go into developing a kind of really a broad, what ends up
Many of
being.
our nursing homes provide LPN training today, I think.
They don't, they
20 or
do.
30 years ago, Barnwell used to or something.
Yeah, well,
but,
they
you know,
provide training for CNAs, so you can get your certified nursing assistant now through a nursing home. But the LPN, the only provider, even in the capital region, I believe, is Capital Region BOCES. The VOTEC in, I think it's OCNC, that's west of Greene County. They have an LPN program, but it's an hour and 15 or hour and 20
A lot
minutes
of
away.
that is because they thought that LPNs wouldn't be a huge part of the workforce at this point.
Right, and
CNAs would get paid as much as LPNs,
Right.
and then you would jump straight to your RN.
Yeah. And it just hasn't materialized. And the other thing was there was a concern that RNs would be replaced by BSNs, the bachelors of nursing, and that just hasn't materialized either. And the healthcare community, the whole sector is in such a crisis right now that beggars can't be choosers, right? At some point you have to just take what you can get.
I think you're really right about the recruitment at the early stages, because we're talking to a local rescue squad now, and they were down 50% of their staff, and they rebooted their entire staff through one of their members who was a trainer. So he got first pick.
Yeah, and we've started to tell people that we fund for training that they have to come back and give us that kind of last touch and give us an opportunity to introduce them to the businesses that are available in the community. But we can't, our funding doesn't allow us to require a commitment to be employed in the county. But we don't necessarily advertise that either. And we kind of lean on the fact that sometimes people don't know any better, and we can kind of give them a little push to stay in the county, but we can't require it.
Well, on public health perspective, your mandate after school for the work health industry. Similar to what Israel does.
Yeah, it's going to be a real problem, right? Somebody has to be able to take care of us, right? Somebody has to be able to take care of the weakest of us. And I just don't know what it looks like. And I say this all the time. I don't know what happens when there's no CNAs, right? What does a world without nurses look like? What does a world without, so it's a troubling trend. And hopefully we can find some solutions.
It's also especially troubling in the fact that we're the second or third oldest county in the state.
Mhm.
So this problem is here. It's
Yeah. And we're getting older, right? And to some extent, our youngest are being replaced by much older people as the kind of demographic shift and people move and people come in. We're replacing our under 18 population with over 65 population. And it's an incredibly difficult situation to be in for healthcare, but for hospitality. I often think, like, what happens when there's nobody to make the beds in your hotel? What happens when there's nobody to cook your food in the kitchen? Do tourists continue to come when we can't provide the amenities that they've become accustomed to? And then what happens to an economy that's built that way if we can't provide those basic amenities that people are coming here for? I don't know the answers to that, but the time is coming when the royal we collectively are going to have to reckon with these kind of questions, because our workforce it is evaporating, I think is the best word, the only way I can really describe it. So as there's no more questions, this last little part again it speaks to the evaporation of our workforce. So our office is part of the American Job Center network, and the American Job Centers exist in every county in every state in the country. And we can refer people to if someone is moving to another county, we refer them to their job center so that they can get hooked up with a job in the county when they move in. So there's been I would say, I don't have the numbers, but it's probably a 10-fold increase in the number of referrals that have been asked of us, to referrals to out-of-county services. So we're seeing, I would think it has to be 100 of them this calendar year since January 1 this year, which is a huge change to what we've historically had.
How many incoming referrals do you have?
Very few people that are incoming to the county don't utilize our services, right? For the most part, they don't meet the income requirements. People coming in are, and I'm preaching to the choir, you guys know, no, it's not anything new. People coming into the county, low income people aren't coming here. You can't afford to live here. So why, it's not typically, we're not getting a lot of incoming low income people, but we have had a few, right? I would say there may be 10 people that have been coming in that want to be matched with jobs, which is terrific for us because we can finally match people to jobs. But it is a really troubling situation to see the working families, right? And they're not typically, it's not like, I'm not talking about poor people, right? I'm talking about working families who are the backbone of our communities, are just leaving. They're just going, they can't afford to live here. And what we hear more than anything, and I know everybody's talking about housing, and I'm not here to make some big stand about housing, but it's just the cost of living here is too high for people. Even two people making $15 an hour each or $18 an hour each can't afford to live. Not even to talk about buying a home, like that's a whole different discussion, but just to rent an apartment that can fit you and your two kids is cost prohibitive. It's $2,000 a month or something, right? For a 3-bedroom apartment it's just not affordable for people. So I think what we're seeing is people coming to us and saying, hey, I'm moving to, sometimes it's Rensselaer County, sometimes it's Albany, but sometimes it's Nevada and sometimes it's Arizona. But they are leaving. People are leaving. And I don't know, what does it look like when your workforce just kind of dissolves and is displaced and replaced by people that are coming in that are not engaged with the workforce generally? There are absolutely people that are moving into the county, immigrants coming into the county that are engaged in the workforce and start businesses and hire people. This is absolutely true, but they're not typically, they're not making the beds at your hotel. They're not washing the dishes at your favorite restaurant. They're not making your coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. They're not working at your gas stations. Those are the people that we're losing, are the people that we need to provide these amenities. And we've built, in large part, an economy that kind of runs on tourism, runs on hospitality. And if we can't provide those amenities, if we don't have the workforce to provide amenities to those people, what happens, right? What happens to an economy that's built on that? I don't know. Mike's an economist. Maybe he knows, but I don't know. But I think it's really, for me, somebody who does this work every day, and to see the trends being, okay, there's no one left at the bottom. All of our low income working people are disappearing. And we're training everybody into middle skill positions, which is terrific. But your economy is built on the backs, unfortunately or fortunately, of those people in those positions, right? And we are losing them quickly. And I don't have any answers, right? Which is, I guess a blessing for me, but it's a difficult situation. So those are kind of the trends that we're seeing, and the work that we do. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I know you have a packed agenda, and I've been up here for 20 minutes or so. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Chairman Soto, may I ask this question?
You may.
Prior to the pandemic, we were seeing dwindling numbers of our immigrant labor force. Has that leveled off? Is it continue to fall?
We don't have a great relationship with the immigrant labor force because of the nature of our funders, right? So we're a federally funded So we have really strict regulations, and people don't typically like to talk to us about those things. But what we've seen is that people who are employment eligible, it's pretty stable. That's the workforce that we're telling businesses to go after. Those are the people, our immigrant populations. And we're suggesting that people translate all of their software so they can engage people who are not native English speakers, because those are the people that are here that seem to have stuck around. But we don't have great numbers on that, just again because of the nature of our funding, and our office is often seen in connection with the federal government, which isn't always a positive for those populations.
We do have one resolution, that Katie had sent to us. It's for the Columbia Community Workforce Development Board to appoint Ms. Michelle Troy Ryder, Senior Social Welfare Examiner from Columbia County DSS for the term of appointment until June 30th, 23.
I'll move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Chris.
And thank you all so much for your time. I'm happy to come whenever you want. If you have any questions, this is all we do. It's, your tax dollars at work. So call me in. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks.
We have,
Next on our agenda is Cornell. Saw Lisa walk in.
Hi. Come on your side, Lisa. There's so many wires on that side. I want you tripping. Dangerous.
Thank you for having me this evening. I have a handout. All right, let's see. I will pass some of my cards if you do not have my card. I'm Lisa Galina. I've now been with Cornell Cooperative Extension for almost 4 months. Thank you. So what I wanted to talk about, there are a few things just to kind of give you an update on what I've been doing and how that impacts the economy. First off, I wanted to talk about the fair. So this is exciting. I've never moved. I moved one time. I moved a half a cow from Hoosick Falls to Schenectady, but last week I moved $66,000 worth of local livestock raised by our 4-H programs from Hoosick Falls to the Stark Farm, and now the 4-H kids are out delivering. I don't think.
We're not gonna have enough.
Okay, and so that's the largest amount of livestock that has ever been raised per pound, and in terms of the overall amount of money. So it was $66,000 that 4-H raised. It was really exciting, and that was because more steer were allowed into the fair, and we hope to continue that. Milk Bar, we raised $16,000 with our 4-H program, so that was great. So if you were at the county fair, and yes, I heard a lot about potatoes. So to transition out of the pain of the potatoes, which I never thought I would be known as the killer of the potato booth historically was served by one farm, and it was able to make money. And it was a thing that was done traditionally for so many years with lots and lots of outside labor that was volunteer labor. And it was determined not to do it this year because the cost of all of the condiments and everything else that go with it would mean that we would have to charge more. Last year, halfway through the fair, when I was not here, they had to bring the price down. So instead, what we did was the Taste New York, which is one of our programs. And what I passed out to you are I think that is 18, the names of the 18 farms and businesses in Columbia County that Taste New York is supporting. And by supporting, I mean promoting, advertising, marketing their sell in our store as well as across the state. And that helps elevate the local economy because those are makers that are in this county that are getting exposure in Riverhead, Long Island. I was just in Geneva last week. So we've decided to shift towards giving Taste New York samples, which we buy from the producer or the farmer, and giving those out to promote people purchasing locally made products. So potato people can come and yell, and I feel terrible, but some of the traditions that are a huge cost loss we had to look at, and that was one of them. And that's just the overall economy of how prices have gone on products. So that was something that I'm now known as the killer of potatoes. I maybe the masher of potatoes, I'm not sure. So, but it was, the real thought was, let's elevate these, and we got a lot of new farmers who've been here for a long time and new farmers that came to the taste during the fair and said, hey, we're really interested to know how can we sell our product with you? And, that's a process that we go through with them, which is between New York State Thruway Authority, Economic Development and Ag and Market. So we help navigate that really fun 18-page document. And so that's kind of just, so I know that, I figured this group should know about the potato decision. And it was a hard decision for staff, but because of the turnover that I inherited and the number of volunteers who last year, it was just really very, very difficult. It was a decision we had to make on a variety of reasons, but mostly it was on economics. And we think promoting Taste New York and getting more of that information out to the community is really key for our farmers to have access to this kind of, all the I Love New York marketing is attached to it. You'll see the products, like I said, I was in Geneva, and you'll see our products from Columbia County. It's a really cool thing. And people get very excited when they see something that's from their county when they're in one of the other locations. So it's something that I think will be a positive thing moving forward. Does anyone have any questions or want to mash me about the potatoes? So I heard a lot about the
Facebook, just so you know.
I know, and I said, we decided not to engage because it would only potentially get really, sticky. Tatergate, exactly. And I did get to hear about the merger from 10 years ago at the fair a lot too. So I was there every day but Thursday, and it was amazing to work with everyone. I hope you all came over to see our building that we had, as well as got Shaker Sunday from the Milk Bar. As for what else I'm up to in Columbia County, well, one thing I've learned through my 4 months is there's not been a lot of engagement at our Hudson campus. So in order to address that, I've spoken with a lot of people, some of the folks in this room, on how to do that. So what we're going to do, and I have those back in my bag, I'll have to grab them, is we are going to have 4 days where the public is going to come out and be able to give their input on about 10 ideas for growth opportunities, such as an expansion of a garden, a trail project we want to do, so that people can kind of be reintegrated and invited back into what is Cornell Cooperative Extension? Because a lot of people don't know. I mean, we do programs on nutrition, programs on with farmers, programs of master gardening. We do so many things, 4-H, but there's a lot of I think people who are either, it's no longer on their radar, their kids are, not involved any longer, but to re-engage people on the property. So I have actually a flyer that I'll give you guys. I'd like to invite each of you to come out and give your input. And what that will do is inform us on how we move forward in fundraising and programming activities on site. And one of my first, I've been trying to get volunteer days. So my first volunteer group is Farm Credit East. It's coming on October 21st. Half of them in the morning. It turns out they're all bankers and not farmers. So, what are you going to do? But they're very nice to give their day of service. So they'll be there for 4 hours in the morning, second group 4 hours in the afternoon, and they're going to help me with the physical cleanup of the facility, helping with the trails, helping with overwintering our garden beds, because a lot of those programs that we have not had as much activity because of COVID, and we're trying to re-engage people. And these folks are there. They cover multiple states, but they're located a few miles down the road. So I went and gave a presentation pitch plea for their services. And so October 21st, they come, and then you'll see the 4 service days, open community days come after that. I'd love for you to share that with anyone you can, to get them to come out and give input. Everyone's going to get a clipboard. They're going to be able to we're going to use I've explained who here knows what Burma Shave is. Raise your hands. Well, I explained this to millennials, and that was pretty exciting. So it's always better with Burma Shave. So explain that we're going to walk around like you would do if you're being encouraged to go to a farm. If you're encouraged to, and that Burma Shave sign was the end point. Well, our end point is engaging with the cooperative extension. Are there questions? And I will get those for you guys out of my bag.
Can you give us a website-friendly version of that pitch so we can get it out there?
I can absolutely do that. And I have, let me grab the
Kelly
flyer.
has all of our stuff, so you just can't.
Okay, let me grab the flyer for you guys because I printed them. And I also, Rebecca, I know the owl is following me. Did I tell you guys the funny thing that when I interviewed for this position, they told me there was going to be an owl in the room? And I thought, wow, these are some hardcore extension people. Like, send a bird down. Okay. So here's a paper version. Sorry for the paper version, but I wanted to, you guys are the first, it's hot off the press.
Email this to us?
I can also email it to everyone. Yes. I wanted to just bring it in person tonight. So you guys had it. And please, you can bring as many people. We'll have some donuts and coffee.
Lisa, is this something you want to keep?
Oh, I do want to keep that. Thank you. Thanks, Art. So that is what I've been doing in my first few months. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you gonna talk about the forester program?
Oh, I
Is that
absolutely.
yours?
Yes, Master Forester Owner Program. Columbia County has had 20 people, has had 20 people come forward and have their land evaluated for ways to make higher production. So that means they can learn about which trees the stands will be for long-term, short-term, mid-term growth, what to be planting in their understory, and how they can potentially make revenue from it by not doing a short-term clear-cut version, but looking at agroforestry practices as well as a bunch of different plantings in the understories, a lot of berries, which the berries take only a couple of years to start to yield. So that's something that people are interested, and a lot of them, they're interested to do it for production for their family, to make it, they want to make a jam, but also as a way for people who have larger plots of land to get engaged in figuring out ways that they could use it for potentially bringing in livestock.
They have them already, they're deer.
There are this thing
There's
called
no
deer.
understories or what
Yes,
do.
they love it all. They're buffet people. They are buffet beings. But I really hope that you guys can come because I want you to sort of, the Hudson campus has a lot of opportunity. I'm taking bids for the redoing of the roof, and I have a few that look good. That building has good bones. Not all the other buildings on the property do, but that's a good bone building. I've brought about 19 people into that building, and the common theme is good bones. So that's what we're working with. We're working with the good bones and doing the roof so that we can secure it. Because in the last 40 years, it's never been completely redone. It's been patched up over time.
Oh, Lisa, there's no address on this for where the Hudson campus is.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So this is why you go through the test group.
Yeah.
So I will add that on. That'll be, it's a find it. Thank you. I'll add that on. So does everyone here know where it is?
Mhm.
All right. So I'll put that on the email version. Thank you, Art. Thank you so much. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Three. And this group of three.
Is that the same thing?
No,
Two different-
there's two different, good afternoon, supervisors.
Okay. But there's no address on that either.
You know where to find me. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this afternoon. We're very pleased to have here Chris Nardone at the Workforce New York Works. We have a very close working relationship with Chris, and it's great to see Lisa again. Two of the things in the packet was a profile that the Center for Economic Growth and Columbia Economic Development worked on. I did send it to you electronically. I do have some hard copies here if anyone is interested. Also, Columbia Economic Development, Berkshire Taconic Community Foundation, and Columbia Green Community College, with support from the Dyson Foundation, is hosting a two-county Skilling the Gap workforce development forum on Friday, October 21st from 8:30 to 1 p.m. Again, we have been sending out marketing material about that. It will be in our newsletter again. We're partnering with the two-county Columbia and Greene Counties Chamber of Commerce and the Columbia County and Greene County Economic Development offices. Greene County recently hired James Hanash as their new economic development director, and we've met with him now several times. And he's a great addition to the Twin County team. And as you all know, we have many partnerships, starting with the college, the Board of Realtors, the mental health, a host of organizations and activities where we do work closely between Columbia and Greene counties. On the broadband front, we had two conversations with New York Connects, which is at Empire State Development. It's the governor's new broadband reinvented organization. There are 4 people there looking at the broadband issues statewide. And my understanding is they're about to appoint a director of that program. And the people who are there have been very helpful, but they're waiting to get their director in place so they can get up and running.
So I mean that there will be funding probably for 2023, right? So we're
Yeah.
looking at 2024 before we fill gaps in from that.
Well, I think when you go the next step, I have listed the Federal Communications Commission. I've been participating in several of their webinars. It's very interesting. They're putting together maps to show where the houses or where the addresses are. They haven't begun to do the layer of where there's service and where there isn't service.
Mars and short stuff.
But the good news is they've set up a process where if when they get to where they have their maps, if you challenge them, a town, a county, a government entity can go online and put the address in and challenge them. The most productive area we're finding right now is with the Public Service Commission, which has been charged by the governor to identify unserved areas throughout the state. As you know, you've supported us with funding to go out and do an inventory of sites. We have compared our list with theirs, and there are some discrepancies. And what we're doing is working with them to have our consultants go back out with their list and identify and to validate the fact that where we say there's unserved addresses, they say they're served, and where they say they're unserved addresses, we say they're served. I think our data is more accurate for two reasons. One, the consultants last summer drove most of it. And number 2, we vetted it with each of the towns that had broadband committees. And as you know, in many of the towns that had broadband committees, the people who were on those committees were very passionate and knowledgeable about what the service existed. And we've been very fortunate because we have 4 providers here, 2 who are locally owned, Mid-Hudson and GTEL, along with Consolidated and Spectrum or Charter. And they have been very cooperative with us. And if we send them a list of, can you serve these addresses? They'll tell us yes or no. And as we put that data together, we do think that, the way the state had to go about getting everyone to submit maps and overlaying them, that it helps to explain why there are discrepancies. And again, we've made it clear to the PSC and to the Broadband New York office that, our goal here isn't to put Klieg lights on people. Our goal is to get a list that works. And I think they were very relieved by that. Columbia Forward, in your packet, Jessica Gabriel would have been here tonight, but I told her it would be fine because it's her birthday. So, and she was doing something with her husband and children. But she has been working very diligently with Bill Gerlach and his team at the Chamber. The Chamber has been out doing meetings one-on-one and in small groups with businesses. They have 2 training programs coming up in October. We will send those dates out to you. That they have been published in the paper. They've been published our e-news and the Chamber's e-news. I believe one's on QuickBooks, and I think one is on HR issues. Again, we suffer from the fact that it's a big county. We are hoping to live stream them as well so that you could watch them from home. And I think also when you realize that 75% of the businesses in the county have less than 10 employees, and you're trying to run your business, who has time for a webinar or to drive somewhere to attend a forum. But if we tape them and put them online. Someone might have an opportunity to review them. On CEDC's side, Jessica has begun meeting individually with supervisors. Obviously, with 18 of you, it's a process. And I know that he did include in the package a flyer that at the 30,000 foot level gives you an idea of what we're working on. And she's also been helping me with the housing issues because of her experience working at the Department of Community and Housing Renewal. Moving to the affordable housing update, I did include in the packet a draft job description. We have shared it with a number of people, both in the housing field and along with Al Belichia from the Habitat. I think I sent it in the packet to Supervisor Cousin. I did share it with Michelle Trulo at the city, and we did get some good feedback, and we're prepared to send that out to about 12 different outlets tomorrow. One of the places we're looking at is, in addition to some of the routine places, the associations, the New York Rural Housing Association, the New York State Affordable Housing Finance Organization, because New York State Economic Development Council, the University at Albany's Land Use and Urban Planning Office, obviously Chris Nardone's group, college, and we think that this is the type of job that we've seen in other communities have attracted people to move to do it. On the Affordable Housing Task Force, I have met with Chairman Morell, and the goal would be to have that task force in place by the 15th of October and have a meeting shortly thereafter. Moving to the Commerce Park, we do have a resolution relating to the Commerce Park. You'll recall that last year you authorized twice because the first deal fell through. The Columbia County IDA to be the recipient of a parcel of land in the Commerce Park known as Lot 8. You approved, and the Board of Supervisors voted to transfer to the county IDA that property for sale for $90,000, which was close to the above the appraisal value, and it was sold to Mr. Blass, who has a construction company, not the advertising marketing firm. And he's building a facility there to move his construction business. He'll have offices, he'll have lay down space, both outside and a workshop. The sale of that property resulted in a $88,840 net of about $1,500 in closing costs. And we are holding those funds at the IDA for direction by the county, as we have done with funds that we have received at CEDC, when CEDC was the vehicle that the county used to transfer and sell property. As you know, there's a property on Route 9H that the county had some interest in, but has not yet decided if it wanted to purchase it. CEDC had been asked if we could acquire that and hold it for some period of time for the county. And after a certain period of time, if the county was not interested in that property, we would sell it, and the proceeds of the sale would go back to the county because we were going to be using the restricted monies that CEDC and the IDA has from sale of previous land.
Mike, what kind of property is that on 9H?
It's a $220,000 parcel, 6 acres.
So 6 acres, we wanted to build a new OFA kitchen on, adjacent to the fire training center.
Okay.
And rather than lose the sale, because it's at a good price, and the seller getting antsy, and people are paying more for land than they did a year ago. Mm-hmm. The thought was that local development corporation has the legal authority to acquire the land. we're comfortable that because it adjoins the Commerce Park and now has water and sewer, that, the properties, will be viable as resale, whether the county decides to use it or not. By aggregating the 90,000 that the IDA is holding from land sales for the county to the IDA, from the IDA to CEDC, we'll only be about $20,000 short, and we're not worried about advancing that out of our reserves. But it does take.
Is that a site that if we don't use it for the kitchen, can be used for housing?
It could be used for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's a commercial zone?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of options, but it's easier if we're holding it for you than if it's bought by somebody else. So the resolution is a little bit archaic, but we don't want the state to say, well, why did a public authority give you $90,000 net of closing costs? And by what authority? And then what authority did you use it with the other money you're holding to purchase this land? So, basically that resolution is in your packet. And we would ask that you approve it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And obviously that's to recommend it to the full board for approval, as well as I'm sure the finance committee. Solar update. We've got now about 11 solar pilots in place. The way the pilots are written, and they use, most of the developers use the state, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority's model pilot. It says, on the taxable status date following the initiation of commercial operation, the pilot will trigger in. And as you all know, the taxable status date is what, March 31st? It's May 1st, but as of March 31st. So we are in a situation where I think there are two projects that are up and running, but they were not up and running before the last taxable status date. So James Brigg has asked me about how much money he's getting for the county budget from solar pilots this year. And he's going to have to wait till next January. The following January, because the way these things are written. They are a 15-year pilot. So, the money will be there. It's just going to delay in getting it. I did speak with the chairman last week about the possibility of getting together with the towns and the school districts and increasing the amount that these companies have been able to get. I think some of the first people in offered 3,000. I've got it up to 3,500. Greene County, in an effort to tamp down the development of the 5 megawatt projects, has passed a local law at the county level that all solar projects over 50 kilowatts, which is pretty commercial projects over 50 kilowatts, is $8,500 a megawatt. So I think that, obviously we discussed the fact that if we are going to do this, it has to be, anybody who has got one in is under the wire, and anyone comes in afterwards is. And I don't know that we want to go to 85 right away, but I do think $4,500 or $5,000 is something that we should consider. But
We have to do that by local law, or is it?
Yeah.
Resolutions, local law?
Well, I think that
I forgot how we did.
part of the issue what really drove this in my mind was we have a project that has come in that the developer decided, and in Greene County, once the money comes in, the 8,500, the law states that it will be distributed 3 ways by the percentage of tax that each municipality has to the total tax rate. That really takes, it gives 70% to the school district, 4% to the town, and the balance 7% to the county. What we've been doing is 50 to the school district, 25, and the town is the one that gets the most burden from these projects as you look at it. This developer came in and offered Ichabod Crane, the county and the town, the most recent one that came in, splitting it based on the proportionate share of tax rate, which means the town of Kinderhook would get 4%, the school district would get 76%, mean, and I told the developer that that's not how we do it here. So when I was looking at, okay, the school board attorney emailed me and said, well, that's what he offered us. We'd like to take it.
Of course you would.
So
Yeah, of course.
I said, well, why don't we, what would it take if I raised it up where 70% of 3,500 equaled 50% of 4,800? And then the town and the county will get 50%. And if we're going to do that, we might as well do it for everyone. So, but I have to find out through the town and county attorneys, and since the county attorney represents a number of towns and also school district attorneys, how you pass that law so all three of the entities are in sync.
Standardized, yeah.
But I do think we need to work on that.
With tax credits, we each have to do a local law. Each taxing entity has to do a
Right.
local law.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the schools would have to be doing that as well, too.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, Mike, once you know you can do it non-divisible by what the normal tax rates are, I'm not sure why we're not looking at the town first, county second, school third in terms of the burden of the school project. I think it should be almost reversed.
well, we can take a look at what others have done. I think it started out because that's what NYSERDA, put in the master, but, as these things proliferate, and we have not had an application from any large solar projects in the county, and we are fully aware, as is the developer of that large project, that the Board of Supervisors has directed the IDA not to offer it any financial incentives until the town,
The secretary in Copic.
would that be the one? Yeah. So, we're, and I told them not to file an application. I told them it would just be more noise than they needed until they got it all figured out.
So what's the progress of the one in Ichabod's?
It hasn't, it's not been, they haven't started it.
No, but I'm just wondering how quickly we as a body would need to act in order to.
Well, I'm also looking at what happens if one or two of the municipalities don't agree to the pilot, right? Because, you can opt out. This is kind of a new issue, but it came up last week. But we did put them on notice on behalf of the towns and the county that, they put in a letter for 60 days, 60-day letter, and you have to respond within 60 days that you want to be part of a pilot. And so that's all taken care of. I think the poor guy who sent me the letter is trying to figure out, what's next. They did talk to the school district. And, but, when you look at it, there is a project that got, when all this first started, there were times when either the letter went to the wrong place, the people that got the letter didn't know what to do with it, it got passed back and forth, and nobody notified them. So there is a project in Kinderhook, Ichabod, and the county right now in Kinderhook from East Light Power, which now has pilots on most of their other projects, where there's no pilot because nobody responded.
Mike, what would the taxes be on a large-scale project if there were no pilot and they went ahead with no pilot and just paid normal taxes?
That's
How would that compare to 8,000 a megawatt?
Well, I think that on the 5 megawatt projects, first of all, the developer has to pay the existing assessed value on the land as it's increased over time, and all special districts.
Right.
So that's not exempt. There's a new state formula on the larger projects, which the developers are arguing against, and many municipalities are arguing against because they want more.
Mhm.
But I can get you more information on that. It's really hard to, do that off the top of my head.
That'd be great.
And, I previously developed hydroelectric projects, and I still have, my partners and we still have 3. And if you, in Northern Herkimer County, they're just glad to have you. And in Saratoga County, the rate is higher. We try to appeal them so that we pay what we think is a fair value, and you use appraisals and the Office of Real
But the state
Property,
has a way of calculating
Yeah.
that based on your energy
Right.
production.
the Real
And
Property
won't let
Tax
solar
Office.
companies be assessed that way because
Yeah.
they sort of says they would tax them too much and
Yeah.
they couldn't afford to be in business.
So, it's just something that now that we're up to 10 of them, I think it's time to,
Like, I'd like to talk about the CEDC and the county putting together a letter to NYSERDA to have them rethink that ratio. I think they did it based on just looking at what the tax records are and not giving any thought to the burden of the project, which,
Yeah, you're not sending school kids from the,
no, it's the town who has to do the zoning, the town who has to pay lawyers, the town who has to deal with the neighbor issues, mitigate issues as they can. It may be on a county road, so the county ends up doing maintenance. But I don't think the school impacted at all, except that they get a check.
yeah, well, we will, follow through and report in more detail at the next meeting. Having said all that, I do have a proposed solar energy system contract, with the, Hudson School District, and the town of Claverick, for the Emerson Solar Project, from Eden Development. They have done 3 other projects. What we've always done, and this is one where it's 50% to the school district, 50% or 25. What we've always done is approve these subject to not allowing them to be executed by the county until the school district and the town have executed them. And the town doesn't do it unless the planning board is signed off on it, so that, we're not holding them up, but we're not putting pressure on one or more of the other municipalities to conclude a contract.
Does this have any legal standing, such that if we were to agree to this, then it would make it more difficult to change that ratio in the future?
No, because this is what all the
What we
other,
want to do is change it to this. We've been using this.
this is what's
No,
been.
but I'm talking about.
if you flipped
John's
it.
point, right.
Yeah,
I don't think so, because, you have to draw a line in the sand at some point, and if you decide to make a change, the people who haven't gotten in under the wire, are subject to that.
Okay.
So I would recommend that for approval consistent with the other solar contracts
I'll move that resolution.
Where is that?
I have them.
I'll second it.
so, yeah,
All those in favor?
Where's the part of it?
Any opposed?
I have the resolution for you. That's the contract.
So I'm sorry to make a motion.
and Ron.
I'll get you that in a minute, sorry. The other resolution that we have that was not in the packet is in connection with the grant that the county applied for the Office of Community Renewal for $250,000 to improve the farm worker housing at the Kleinkill Farm. The state has requested a resolution for the authorization for the chairman to designate the certifying officer. And we've talked with the chairman and with Patrice Curry, Director of Planning. And she serves as the certifying officer on other projects like this. And it seems pretty ministerial to me, but it's allow the chairman to appoint Patrice to that position.
I'll move that.
Second,
All those in favor?
that's paperwork.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Finally, our financials are here, as we have been reporting for the last several years. At some point, we may not have to, but they're good for you to have. We're working on a lot of grant programs. The CFA applications we're in. Matt Nelson, myself, Melissa Optimer, and Todd Erling are the 4 representatives to the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council. We had an all-day meeting in Albany a week or 2 ago where we went through the 112 applications and gave the regional, or the local council gets 20 points out of 100. And then the state agency whose program it is, awards the others. For water and sewer projects, I always give 20s, which, 20s are supposed to be held for regionally significant. But if you're competing on a environmental facility corporation grant where it's all being reviewed by technical sufficiency and economic viability, why give it a 10 and find out that Rochester or Buffalo gave it their water projects that kind of score?
There you go.
So I always ask if someone else scored it to amend their score. But I think that basically these state agencies have such detailed requirements for these programs, particularly for housing and water and sewer and NYSERDA, that you wouldn't want to to lose a project if that got the highest score because someone thought it wasn't regionally significant at a local process.
Yeah.
We've been assisting, there are 3 communities that are working on restore grants. There's one in Hudson, there's one in, I think I'm losing my train of thought because we also have Main Street grants. But there's 5 or 6, a village of, Kinderhook is applying,
New Lebanon.
New
We
Lebanon.
applied for an ESD restore grant.
Yeah.
which happened to-
Yeah. So they're out there. We've helped, those that have asked us. You know, we are again looking to, be able to, provide support and guidance. And, you know, we hope we're going to do well. You know, we did well on the regional scoring on the projects that were submitted. And we continue to see, active in, development. You know, we manage, as you know, the Columbia County IDA and the City of Hudson IDA. And we worked with the City of Hudson IDA to adopt, some initial community evaluation criteria that, you know, will not just make it a total, you know, what's the economic benefit? It'll hopefully begin, it's just a start, but it'll be a place to begin to evaluate, are you doing workforce training? Are you paying reasonable wages? Are you, and a lot of that is hard to enforce, and it'll be interesting to see how it works. But if you are willing to provide as much as you can get a 15-year pilot versus 485B, which is the 10-year pilot. And if you're willing to do nothing, you might get a 5-year pilot. But the delta on a $10 million project between the 10-year and the 5-year is you'd save about $300,000. So it's going to be a negotiation. How much will a developer be willing to give up? You know, does he want 80-20, 50-50? You know, will he give 90% of the 300 to get 20 back? So it's going to be an interesting experiment. And I think the IDA at the city is looking at it where, you know, there will be need to amend it and adapt it as we see how it really works, because it really hasn't been done like this in other places. With that, I'm 5 minutes over, and with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We have to do this resolution?
We just, well, we have, it's down under Mike. So, but we just have one resolution. The chairman had appointed, Richard Novak from the, at the full board meeting. It actually needs a resolution to appoint him to, the county, Water and Sewer District 1. So this
Right.
resolution is authorizing that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's it.
And Supervisor Batson shared with me an article from the Columbia paper, which I emailed to all of you separately today, about your investment in CEDC and affordable housing. And if anyone wants some Skilling the Gaps cards, we have 50 people signed up and they want to have 150. So, but we're 3.5 weeks out.
According to Chris Nardone, I think we need to unskill the gap, right?
Yeah.
He's great. And
You can have somebody recirculate that via email.
yes,
That would be helpful.
we had, Chris was at the college fundraiser, he was the person that got up after 4 students told their life story and how the college helped them in their advancement. And he was the one that did all the, you know, he was like the auctioneer that got everybody to make donations, and he was really great at it. I mean, he was just
We raised over $50,000.
yeah. I think what the best is he started out by saying, "This is the last thing I wanted to do tonight, but Carly asked me to do it, and here I am. So help me out, people."
Any supervisors have any business to bring? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
you.
Thank you.